begins.
Greetings, folks. AnIolairGhorm here with a World of Warships replay. This is myself in the Tier 10 German heavy cruiser, the Hindenburg, and I am divisioned with Piston Napalm in the Tier 9 Pan-Asian destroyer, the Chung Mu, and with PoLrKing in the Tier 9 U.S. Navy battleship, the Iowa. We are playing a domination match on Warrior's Path, and the team rosters are a little unusual in that they're very heavy with cruisers and battleships, with only a couple of destroyers per side. And then also the other team has an OPG division, which will ensure this is going to be a challenging match. As far as ship upgrades and commander skills, I continue to use the Hindenburg's unique upgrade. And again, I have a heavy focus on AA since I do carry the German Hydro. And this battle is going to highlight what I'm going to call perseverance and patience, which is often very key in winning a lot of battles. And it's a practice that's followed by a lot of the very competitive clans. They use a lot of patience and waiting and sort of gradual attrition to wear down the opponents and then push once they have overwhelming odds. But this battle is also going to highlight the need to not overextend. And unfortunately, we are going to have a few players on our team that are going to overextend. And to be fair, everyone does it. And frankly, I feel I do it more often than I should. I feel like when I'm playing a very powerful ship like the Hindenburg, I have this sort of irrational invincibility meter that starts to peak, and I end up taking on more than I can chew. But this battle is going to highlight, one, that there is going to be some overextension by allies on our team, but also it's going to highlight some significant restraint that I hold and a couple other people on our team hold in order to help preserve ourselves in this match, despite some negative odds for us. So the gameplay here is going to be a little bit unusual for how I normally play the Hindenburg. There's going to be a fair amount of camping. Usually when I play the Hindenburg, and I think a lot of other players do, is that they use the range and maneuvering to do a lot of ranged combat initially, and then they kind of move in once they have overwhelming strength and they can take on opponents one-on-one and use torpedo systems and the good armor scheme of the Hindenburg to take on other opponents late in the game. But like I said, this battle is going to involve quite a bit more camping than I normally would do in the Hindenburg. So since I spawned on the east side of the map, I'm going to move forward here to support defending the flank here on the east side. We had hoped, obviously, that our Shema would move into the cap, but I think he's made a pretty rational choice here because there are at least 2 radar cruisers in range of the Charlie cap, one being the Worcester and the other being the Moskva. So we did successfully take Bravo, so thanks to Piston Napalm in the Chung Mu for doing that. And we also get first blood here. Keep an eye on our Worcester, who just took down the Baltimore. He's going to play a very critical role in this battle as well, although he is on the west flank. So we did, like I said, we did take Bravo. It was uncontested, and Piston Napalm is able to send torpedoes through that gap on the northeast side of Bravo into this sort of pocket of opponents that are sitting just north of that island that sits between Bravo and Charlie. And you also notice that we just lost our own first ship, which was the Hipper, and we strongly suspect the Hipper was a bot because he basically sailed forward without stopping or changing course or anything, and eventually it was just focused out by the opposing team, who was taken down by torpedoes from the opposing Z-46, which is taking the Charlie cap. We can also see that the Alpha cap is being taken, so we expect that the opposing gearing is in the Alpha cap, and we do have a couple of radar cruisers there, and we have an Alsace in the Alpha area, but I think they're kind of having to stand off right now because there are also some powerful, there's Hindenburg and there's another battleship, I think in Montana, that is on that flank. Or in fact, there's at least one other battleship that's over there as well. So the opposing team has kind of split themselves here between Alpha and Charlie, and they have some limited capacity to fire into Bravo. Here I've we've detected the Z-46 again. We've gotten some additional fire on him. You can see PoLrKing in the Iowa is sitting between the two islands that act as sort of a funnel between Bravo and Charlie, and he was able to get a couple of shells on him. I put up my hydro here because I'm now close enough that I'm able to light up the Z-46, and he's going to stay lit here for the next 2 minutes while my hydro is running. And then the Moskva and I are going to kind of camp this corner that's very popular with a lot of the light cruisers, especially the U.S. Navy and the Royal Navy light cruisers, because it allows them to fire over this terrain and stay relatively protected and concealed. We are leveraging this to be able to put fire on the opponents that are north of Charlie. At this point, the PoLrKing has moved into the cap, as has our allied Freddy. But PoLrKing is getting a little bit exposed here to fire coming from multiple opponents that are on the north side of Charlie. I also believe that he ends up taking at least one torpedo from the Z-46, who is, you can see, is still lit up behind that island that's in the middle of the Charlie cap. Here the opposing Republic is firing at me, so I'm having to back up and try to nose in so I minimize the number of shells I take from him. The Republic has exceptionally good shell penetration, and it's kind of the bane of the Hindenburg, where the Hindenburg is able to tank shells from a lot of battleships, especially those with calibers less than 400 millimeters, and we'll have an example of that later in the battle. The Republic in particular, regardless of angle, seems to get, well, in fact, it does have exceptionally good shell penetration, and I've been in Hindenburg offering very good angling, and I've routinely taken very significant strikes from Republics that fire on me. Here we were able to get a very good, somebody was able to get a very good salvo on the Z-46. I think that was PoLrKing, who was able to get a really good salvo, get the Z-46 down. My hydro just went down, so we've lost visibility on him, but the destroyer is very wounded. And at some point in the not too distant future, we will get him out. But right now, both teams are kind of in the stalemate at Charlie. Now at Alpha, we still haven't taken the cap, but there continues to be, again, there a prolonged standoff between the three ships that are on our side and the opposing folks that are at Alpha. Get another fire on the Izumo. Got somebody targeting me. I think it's the Alsace. You can see that PoLrKing is very wounded. He is taken out by the Z-46, but right before he went down, he fired into the smoke of the Z-46 where he could see the muzzle flashes and was able to take the Z-46 out. But at the same time, our Freddy, which attempted a push here to sort of break us out of the stalemate, basically gets ambush torped by the opposing Minotaur. And so now we're down one ship. In fact, we just lost the Des Moines that was at Alpha. So we're now down one ship at this point. But the key thing here, or one of the key things, is that the destroyer that was in Charlie has now been eliminated. So I'm creeping forward here very slowly. I'm detected by planes. I'm hoping that my AA will shoot him down here in a moment. But the most important thing is that now I'm no longer detected. So I know that the Minotaur, which is the other sort of very well concealed cruiser, it can have concealment better than 9 kilometers, is not detecting me. So I feel it's safe at this point. In fact, there shows up the Minotaur. I feel safe at this point of being able to move into the cap to help take the Alpha Charlie cap. And this is actually particularly important because we've lost Piston Napalm, who was at Bravo. There was a push by the opposing team once they felt like they got Alpha adequately locked down. and they've now pushed into Bravo, and they've taken Bravo from us, or they're trying to. I get a shot in on the opposing gearing while he's in the cap, and I'm able to get a significant reset and delay their capture of that point. But we have now also secured Charlie. We have a 2-ship deficit at this point, and we also have a significant point deficit because we have not held enough caps long enough to be able to build a significant point base. Where I was previously camping on the southwest side of Charlie, we've now crept forward far enough into the cap that I'm now going to position myself here. And here we can see the torpedoes coming in from the Minotaur. This is one of the capabilities of the Minotaur. Because it has concealment better than 9 kilometers and it has 10-kilometer torpedo range, it is able to torpedo from stealth. I'm able to mitigate most of the torpedo risk, although I do take one on the bow. And you might have noticed very briefly that I did take flooding, and the flooding counter was at 23 seconds. So this is, again, an advantage of the Hindenburg's unique upgrade, is that it significantly reduces the duration of fires and floods. And in the event that for some reason that my damage control was on cooldown, I would have been able to survive that flood, whereas normally I would not have been able to. Even if I had let the flood go for its full duration of 23 seconds. Here I get detected again. I'm located, so I expect that the gearing was trying to either come around and ambush me from behind, so I send torpedoes to discourage his advance. I do put up hydro, I do have hydro, and he's now slipped into that hydro, and I think he probably was attempting to do an ambush strike on me, but I think now that he knows that my hydro is up, he's thought the better of it, since I obviously was able to detect him. Now, on the Alpha side, we continue to have sort of this prolonged engagement with the opponents there. We've now moved into that cap. We have an Alsace that's moved in, and he's helping to keep the cap from them being able to take it. But at the same time, the Moskva on our team, as well as the Conqueror on our team, are working the Charlie cap and trying to keep that flank, the opposing flank, from pushing through on this side. We do now got a couple more ships down, so we've now evened up the ship count, but we're still behind by about 60 points, and then we lose our Conqueror on the west flank, or I'm sorry, on the east flank that was with us at Charlie, but he was able to get the Worcester down, that was the opposing Worcester that was down here, that was parked between Bravo and Charlie. At this point we have a point deficit over 150 points. We are contesting both caps. We do lose the Alsace that was an Alpha, so now the opposing team is gaining points from Alpha again. You can also see that there's an opposing Alsace and Izumo here in the middle of the screen that are very low in health. And this would be normally a point that I would like to be able to come out, and this is a reflection of the restraint that I had to show, is that, one, I can't see the Minotaur if he comes out, so I would be at risk of taking more torpedoes from him. And this would be a point where I would want to try to come out and try to finish off the 2 battleships, but there's simply too much firepower here, still camped on the northwest side of Charlie, so it's not safe for me to come out. The Minotaur here is doing a really good job keeping me lit up. And you can see that now that I've been focused or prioritized by 4 opponents, they were anticipating me coming out. And again, this is where I'm having to show some significant restraint. I should also point out that we've just finished off the last opponent that was on the west flank at Alpha. And again, thanks to the help from our allied Worcester, he was able to get that last ship down. And so that was a very prolonged engagement of attrition on the west side. And now the Worcester is able to move into Alpha without being contested, and is going to be able to take that cap from the team, which is really critical because right now we're down by over 200 points. I continue to be detected here because, again, the Minotaur is keeping me lit up. And I've, again, put up hydro here, obviously in anticipation of torpedoes. We can now see the opposing gearing is actually south of Bravo. And he's probably trying to get into a flanking position, partly to work on our Shimakaze, because you can see that his allied Moskva that is on the north side of Bravo is probably in a position to radar the Shima, and he is in fact, and the Moskva and the Gearing are able to get our Shimakaze out of the way. You'll see some comments here in chat from our Shimakaze. I think he was quite frustrated because we weren't getting the radar cruisers out of the way, which is a key threat to the destroyers. Again, here's a place that I normally would have been able to have peeked out, finished off the Izumo, but there's simply too many opponents here. Here comes some more torpedoes from the Minotaur. Now, my planes had detected the Minotaur briefly earlier, but he was a little more than 10 kilometers from beyond me. So these torpedoes expire before they arrive, before they are able to hit me, excuse me. So we've now secured Alpha. We hold Charlie. We still know that the opposing Gearing is out there, and our Moskva, which is on the south end of Charlie, he's moving to try to intercept and detect the Gearing. He will have radar here in a second. And here comes the Alsace. Now the Alsace carries 380 millimeter rifles, and this is one of the battleships that the Hindenburg, the Rhone, and the Hipper and Eugen are able to bow tank. So I get a full broadside of AP into the upper belt of the Alsace. I'm going to get a couple more salvos here. He is set on fire by my secondaries, and between the AP salvos and the fire, I'm now able to finish off the Alsace. So the Alsace made a one-on-one engagement approach, which is generally a dangerous thing for an Alsace to do against a Hindenburg, unless he's got a significant health advantage on the Hindenburg, which in this case he did not against me. Again, more torpedoes coming in from the Minotaur. Our Worcester is able to finish off the Izumo. That was low health. And our Moskva is about to intercept the Gearing. I'm having to back up here because I clearly don't have the health to fight the Minotaur, and I need to keep a bow on him so that I minimize the amount of damage I'm taking. I do get a repair party in. The Moskva does detect and take out the Gearing, and we have now taken the lead from the team. So our patience here has been rewarded so far. We were able to now wear down the opposing team enough, and even though we had some folks that did overextend, and we suspect that we had a bot in our Hipper who was the first ship to die, we've now been able to take the lead. We hold 2 caps. The Moskva is making absolutely the right decision point here to sail away. His concealment is terrible. Even at best, it's over 13 kilometers. So the best thing for him to do at this point is to sail away. Our Worcester is going to get behind the island that you can see that is just north of him to stay in concealment from the opposing Moskva. I frankly want to get turned around here, but the Minotaur has lit me up, and there he is again. And again, the best thing I can do at this point is just keep my bow on him and try to minimize the amount of damage. But because we now have 2 caps and we now have a point lead of more than 100 points, even if he sinks me, which he will here in a moment, we will have enough of a buffer that we will retain the lead. And so this Minotaur is making the right decision to push and try to take me out, but it's coming a little too late at this point. And like I said, even though he is going to sink me here in just a moment, we will still have the lead. And there I go. And he will not have enough time to get into the cap because we're less than a minute away from the match ending, and we are going to win on points. So a quite exciting battle. It's not obviously the highest damage game that I've ever had or anybody has had in the Hindenburg. I don't earn any achievements in terms of, achievement symbols that show up on the ribbon score, but it was a very exciting match. It was a really good way to stay focused and not overextend and end up winning the game. So I do want, again, to offer a huge shout out to our allied Worcester, who was Cyborg 363 from the Odin clan. I also want to thank our Moskva, who helped out take out the gearing right at the end as well. And those among other plays by our teammates, including PoLrKing and Piston Napalm and the Chung Mu did help ensure that we did get this win. So I hope you enjoyed the replay and the commentary. Please do leave your comments below. And as always, we hope to see you out there, and we wish you happy sailing.